Right. Any other thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, the three things that I had kind of just running through my mind there was, from my perspective, being 27 and literally not experiencing any of this on, like actually competently, because I was just a little little like blob of human formation at that time. Was that one, like it's like Tom Osborne takes over Bob Devaney, and there is a significant amount, like 10 plus years before you really start to see anything worth national championship contention, because we just always lost the big ones. And like I'd heard that it took Tom Osborne quite some time before we were ever in that dynastic period, which like Honke was saying, that you didn't know you were in it at the time until it concluded after 97 pretty much. And it was just so like captivating to like watch the like documentation of how much of a struggle it was to be a Husker fan through the 80s and the early 90s, of just, you're winning all of your games and losing maybe one or two, but you just couldn't win the big one against OU. You couldn't win a bowl game for, what was it, like a 6-year stretch. And those were those contexts that I just didn't know about. All I knew was our dynastic period from 1994 to 1997 and the 93 team that almost won it all. And it was just so fascinating to just like see that and then reflect on where we're at currently, and just kind of like, wow, like there's completely contrasting differences. We were in a struggle bus, like you guys were in a struggle bus of like, can we ever win the big one? And then right now the current struggle is, can we win a big one, like any big one at all? And so it was just like, wow, like but just reference points relative to where you're at in time. So it was just, that was one thing, was just the fact that Tom Osborne really did have a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and a lot of fans that had high expectations for him. And it just didn't seem to come to fruition. And then all of a sudden, which we haven't seen the second half, just boom, okay, we finally got through the adversity, should have won it in 93. We squeak away with it in 94 with a rattled and tattered, like team that had all of the potential to do so, but it was a matter of actually doing it. And Tom Osborne finally got his national championship that, Husker Nation at that time was so desperately craving, since, the 70s. Some of those old school fans that remembered the 70-71 years, like, they were like, when are we going to do it again? We have been dominant for the last 2 decades. When can we finally win the big one again? And then they finally did it. And that was like so bone chilling for me to watch, because it's like, okay, I didn't get to experience it, but this feels like experiencing it right now, especially looking around the room and seeing some of those old cats just getting teared up, getting choked up, getting angry, getting happy, raising their hands, banging their tables. Like, that was like, if there's anything that I've experienced that's close enough to where I felt like maybe I was there in spirit, like that was it. The second thing that I thought was crazy was learning about Brooke Berringer and Tommy Frazier and the quarterback battle that went on between those guys leading up to the national championship. Like, I had no idea. Like, I still, like, up to going to the documentary, I didn't really know the Brooke Berringer and Tommy Frazier story, or at least the first half of it. And I guess I'll get to know the second half, which is
there's
tragedy.
a lot
more. But that was just like, whoa, I got to see it, like what it actually was. And that was fascinating. Like, it was like, holy crap. And, you're sitting there, like I'm sitting there as a person who didn't live through it. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I'm in conflict. Like, do we put Berringer in? Do we put Tommy in? Like what? Like who is the? Well, I guess but it was one interception. It was one interception in practice that basically decided between the two. But then, Tom Osborne was like, all right, well, you're going to have the first quarter, you're going to have the second quarter. And based on who performs well between those two things, is going to decide the rest of the game. One of the things that was neat about that was learning about the coaches and what we discussed afterwards was their institutional knowledge of being able to make those during the moment calls, of being able to interpret what's happening on the field, who's in their right mindset, who has the best potential to do the right thing. And well, it ended up being Tommy Frazier when it was all said and done. And we pulled it off, that was super neat.
We definitely needed both. There was no doubt that
it's amazing that Frazier wins the MVP in that game when he basically only played a total of a quarter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He played 2 series in the first quarter, then he didn't play again until halfway through the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And he wins the MVP because
what he did
when you needed him, you got him. I was really hoping they would have confirmed for me the story that you've heard for years since that game, where Frazier comes back into the game and Warren Sapp says something like, "Hey, where you been?" And Frazier got up to the line, getting ready to snap the ball, and says, "Hey, fat boy, it ain't been where I've been, it's where I'm going." I don't know if that's true or if that's just, legend or whatever, but I was kind of hoping they would either confirm or deny that happened, but that they didn't talk about that I recall anyway in the movie. But your point's well taken, Scott.
Which is crazy, because if he does say that before the first play, which I've heard that's folklore now since, and I'm going to just assume it's true.
He got thrown for a loss.
Yeah, he got thrown for a loss by
Warren
Sapp. They didn't block him on the play, so that would have been a little interesting first play. But and that's the thing, we didn't even. I don't think we got a first down on his first drive back, and. If you remember watching the game live, Chris Collinsworth, who was doing the game, was very clear that, he thinks they should put Brooke Berringer right back onto the field again. So, that Tommy and the speed of the defense is just too much for what Tommy can do offensively. And it's all the more just the way that Osborne handled it.
Yeah.
He knew that he was going to have to play both. They both played a key role. We don't win that game if Brooke doesn't come in and do the things he did. He helped calm the waters. Think about his situation. He walked into a game down 10-0 with all this momentum and everything going Miami's way. Took us down the field, and we scored the touchdown to make it 10-7. And things kind of get righted a little bit. But we had a couple turnovers in the third quarter, and the interception that he threw. I mean, you think about it. He threw an interception, and boom, he was off the field. And Osborne. That's the reality of, you have expectations that you need to play up to. And if you don't, there is another guy that can come onto the field. And that's what pulled him out, was making that mistake. And so, I don't know how you apply that to today. I mean, we've had times where we've had quarterbacks that have played for 3-4 years in a row, and it seems like, what can you do to get them off the field? Well, mistakes will be the thing that did. That's how Osborne, treated his players and coached his players, and seemed to work for him.
Yep, absolutely. Do you have anything else, Scott, that was on your mind there? Did we derail you?
Just the only third thing I had, which was just super short and really just, it was just kind of like a woo, so the guy who does my haircut, Riley Washington, he was on those earlier teams, got to experience some of the greatness, and gets me some really fresh haircuts, and he and I had talked about it a few haircuts ago, about that I was excited to see the movie, and he was so humble. He never even mentioned to me that he was going to be in the documentary, or even had any part of the documentation. And so it was neat seeing him make his comments about Tommy Frazier and Brooke Berringer and the quarterback battle that was going on between the two of them. And And so shout out to Riley, stand up dude. Can't wait to get another haircut and be like, hey, you son of a gun. Why are you so humble? Why didn't you tell me you were going to be in it? I would have gone anyway, but like,
right.
That was pretty much.
I think a lot of it is the former players. They don't want to have to stay constantly connected to the glory, right? I think a lot of them we just like being in Lincoln. We just like being around the school and the people and whatnot. We just want to be people with you. I think that's kind of the way Riley is wired.
Yeah, because I talked with him a few haircuts in a row. I talked to him about Husker football, and he and I would just BS about it. And it wasn't until like the third haircut that I got that he just casually mentioned like, yeah, I played in the 90s, and I was like, oh, hey, what? And then found out later that a few people that we know, mutual friends, knew that and could have told me that, but it was just it's just cool. I don't know. I don't have really much else to say about it, but it was just like, oh yeah, good for you, man. Good for you.